Welcome back to theCUBE here at the New York Stock Exchange. This is Crypto Trailblazers, part of our programming with NYSE Wired. And this is an epic week for the Crypto Trailblazer community with a lot of big events happening here throughout the week. Joining me now is a man who has surely made his mark on this industry in just under a decade, Yoshi Yokokawa, CEO and co-founder of Alpaca. Welcome, Yoshi.
Great to be here.
So you have a very interesting resume, right? Started your career in Lehman. From there, you have been certainly doing your bit to disrupt or to bring, I guess, some level of marriage of unity to Wall Street and the world of DeFi. Talk to me a little bit about Alpaca. What is this company?
Yeah.
What do you do? And, what is the mission statement here?
Yeah, Alpaca is a self-clearing broker-dealer in the United States. And then also we are a custodian clearing infrastructure API. So basically what we do is we are behind the scene players for a lot of retail broker-dealers and the tokenization players around the globe. Okay. So that's what we do.
So the idea for this company, I know you were part of the 2019 YC intake, which had some very famous peers, right? Like Kalshi and Deal, companies that have gone on to very interesting trajectories like your own. But talk to me about the overall premise of this. You worked in the brokerage space yourself, saw some of the ways in which legacy tech was causing somewhat of an ongoing churn. Like, where was the kind of come to Jesus moment for you?
Yeah, I think before going into YC, obviously we had some idea about, being a broker dealer ourselves. But although I started my career at the Lehman, I never built our own brokerage, right? Because we're in the front office, but actually building a broker dealer is really more about compliance, operations, regulatory framework. It's more of the back office, mid office. So I had to really learn everything from scratch. Okay. So that's what we had to do. But through YC, what we really learned is that there's definitely a macro trend that was happening at that time. API, which is the interface for the programming, has been really big. There's a success from the Plaid, success of the Stripe. Those are, YC companies as well. That was really led the trend of how we can provide the API in the financial services in each verticals. And then broker dealer, it really didn't have an API. So that was really our problem statement when we went into YC. So
this API model, right? You decide, you wake up one day, any entrepreneur the world over, and you want to build a fintech app, okay? You don't want the stress of having to go through FINRA and all of the regulations that come with doing business here on Wall Street. Your company essentially streamlines all of that for you. It's almost like a plug and play model, a UX front end model for that very problem, right? You leaned into the coding base or software engineers and developers as your key audience. Talk to me a little bit about that decision, and how, it's interesting, right? Because they are somewhat of a behind the curtain player for the most part. Explain what that audience engagement is like.
Yeah, I think there are two things that happen. So, we definitely try to, we love the app as Robinhood when we are start kind of brainstorm what is it for the fintech, in 2015, 2016, when I was just playing around a lot of apps. And then I really loved the Robinhood app. But what I realized is that it's so hard to kind of do an even better job than Robinhood did in the mobile first space. So what we realized is, okay, what is it that comes after the mobile first? Because when we are interacting, it's human first. And then it became telephone, it became web browser. And, Robinhood nailed it in the mobile first. So what comes after that? And we thought, it's going to be programmings. And then it's going to be more the algorithms and the AI will come. That, the interface for that is needed. So that was really the kind of idea that we had. What comes after the mobile first? Okay. So that was really the idea that we had.
So you're selling into an audience and a base that's also going through somewhat of a reimagination, right? We think about coders and software developers right now, there is a lot of question around what the future of that space will look like from the perspective of vibe coding and all of what we're seeing in the agentic era, right? What are your thoughts? What are you seeing? Do you think that the sensationalist headlines are real? Do you think that, the world of a software engineer has shifted fundamentally in 3 years? Talk to me about it.
I really think so, because when we launched Alpaca as the stock trading API in 2018, we had a thesis that it's going to be a lot more software engineers because at that time there was like a lot of coding schools like Lambda school, and then like programming language is becoming even simpler, like Python and everything. So what we were thinking about, like definition of coding is becoming evolving day by day. And what happened literally like last year with the vibe coding and everything, literally everyone became a software developer. You don't have to write it, but like you can vibe code it to be a software engineer. So like in a way, like our thesis, back in 2018 has been always the same, and it just suddenly accelerated. So that's how I see what's happening in this AI first world.
Wow. And when you think back to that early days, right, you're like going through the YC program, so much has changed in the market, right? Like in terms of how we think about, what the future will look like from the perspective of audience engagement, how revenue models are vetted, and the longevity of which, right? What are your thoughts and way of how this model is evolving? Like, do we think a lot about subscription, annuity revenue in the kind of software space that we don't know what 10 years from now will look like. Like, what are your thoughts? How do you think about it from the perspective of Alpaca?
I think that's a great question, because like, people talk about like, how the SaaS will actually survive with this like AI first and everything. But even though we talk about we are, clearing broker dealer, we're the broker infrastructure API, the real reality of what we do is really just being a securities clearing and custody business. And this business has existed more than 100 years.
For sure.
So regardless of what technology comes in, I believe that this foundation will continue to stay and exist. So I think like business model, at least for us, I don't think it will change much.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's talk numbers for a second. Company is valued at over $1 billion. Congratulations. That's phenomenal. You've raised 150 million to date. Two of your big backers are also customers, I'm guessing, Kraken and Citadel. Talk to me a little bit about the process right now, raising money, where the company's at from the perspective of runway, etc.
Yeah, I mean, we've been always intentional about like, how we raise investments from who. Like, every investment that we receive, we consider them as our business partners. So that can be our clients, that can be our ecosystem partners, it can be like, part of our business development team.
Sure.
So that's how we think about it. And in terms of our business trajectory, our business, again, is in the securities clearing and custody business. This is a humongous, like $350 trillion securities custodied in the TradFi space. So, it's a lot of dollar amount. We're just like scratching only the surface of it. So we're very excited for what's coming next.
We've seen a lot of activity in the crypto industry broadly over the last, I guess you could say, 2 years or so, right? There's certainly been a massive narrative shift around just how impactful, and any skepticism that was kind of, I guess, brimming has certainly had its moment, right? Talk to me a little bit about the industry broadly. Like, what sorts of trends are you seeing, especially from a builder perspective? I feel as though the world of AI and crypto, it's kind of is it a perfect storm? Is it a perfect marriage? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think like, what's interesting is that like, obviously crypto price is not the highest, compared to last year. But what's so cool about it is that the actual foundations of the build-up is not really stopping. If you think about like stable coin adoption, or like, this system around the tokenization, that conversations continue to like, moving forward. So I think that's a very different thing that we're seeing compared to several cycles of the downturn of the, crypto market. Right now, like we're really thinking about this, crypto related thing like, stable coins and tokenization to be real part of the financial system evolution. Like, just like New York Stock Exchange is involved, Nasdaq's involved, everyone's involved. So I'm very excited about that. And there's a reason why it's amazing time for the builders to come in, because there's a whole big shift happening from the financial services moving from firstly paper to computer, and now computer, TradFi to the on-chain. Yeah. So when this big shift happens, I think there's a humongous opportunities exist.
And I guess when we look at the industry broadly, right, these shifts are happening. There's a lot more activity, a lot more hype, and a little bit more noise, right? How do you think companies, or, especially companies like yours, like continue to stand out? Like, what are companies really looking for? Is it like a very slick UX? Is it a very integrated experience? Like, what is the real kind of buyer decision? What sorts of, I guess, nuances are happening in the background around these kind of buyer decisions? Yeah. How do you stay competitive?
I think because like we target developers, they are like very smart people. And because they can build, they understand what's behind the scene, and they're curious about what's behind the scene, which means that our job as an infrastructure facing developers is how we can build stuff internally as much as possible by ourselves, so that developers can see that, oh, we are also building stuff by ourselves, instead of like outsourcing the licenses or outsourcing some systems. We internalize everything. I think that matters a lot for even developers as well, because we can talk in that same level, right? It's not like we are wrapping up the pieces together and providing the service. We actually building everything internally. Same thing as license stack. Same thing as like the system stack as well. So I think that is how we continue to stay extremely competitive. We are of course extremely regulated financial services company, but even before that, we are tech company. We're the company who builds technology and systems. So, I hope that we stay that way very much.
We hear a little bit about this idea of companies like yours being vertically integrated and horizontally aligned, right? How do you think about that from the perspective of this like mass integration that some folks feel is actually at the cusp or the cutting edge of the competitive advantage of tomorrow, right? Like, is that something you think about a lot, especially in the world of brokerages where, systems have historically been clunky. There's a lot of different, we look down here, for example, there's a lot of screens open at any one time, right?
Yeah.
Like some of them have 5 or 6 screens on the go.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think like, that when we thinking about bundling, there are like multiple dimensions that we have to think about. One is like, there's always a trend of swinging of the bundling to unbundling. And then there's also, there's no one can really internalize, bundle everything in every single asset classes or every single financial services, right? So if you think about, even like Goldman or JP Morgan or anyone, they don't own like every stack. Even in the United States, definitely not in the world. They always rely on someone else as a layer. So I think like, what's very important in my opinion is that what is our core strength and core value? And in that space, we want to make sure that we vertically like, integrate. But others that may not be core, we want to prioritize the speed, which means that we want to partner with people, and then we want to make sure that we launch first. So I think like, that understanding of the strength and what is a supplemental is, in my opinion, very important.
Wow, that's interesting perspective. So you have definitely had an interesting year too from the perspective of the Endeavor Entrepreneur Award. I guess it's an honor.
Yes,
I guess I should describe it right. Less than 1.6% of applicants make the cut.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about that. Give us the background on that program, and also what it means. Like, what sorts of doors does it open for you?
Yeah. I think Endeavor Network is extremely unique. One, it's very, very global and international. I think like, that when they launched it, their focus was that like, what's happening outside of the Bay Area, Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And there are so many different companies and different businesses that's happening, not only in the Bay Area, not only in the United States, but really globally. So I think like it allows us to, get into so many different countries that we may not have a very close relationships to. So currently we work with the financial institutions in 45 different countries.
Wow.
So like, that allows us to understand importance of, being able to understand the cultures, being able to connect with the regulators in all different countries, having the right connections. That has been very, very important for us to expand our business.
Wow.
So Endeavor does have extreme, like strong relationship to so many different countries. So being an entrepreneur of the Endeavor Entrepreneur, they see us as kind of, they're actually legitimate, Alpaca's a legitimate company to be able to connect with the certain, people in many different countries. So that has been pushing our business grow faster.
That is so interesting. In terms of the developer audiences globally, like, do you see any interesting nuances?
Yes.
Like, if any patterns emerge?
Yes, I think like, when I think about it, when we focus on developers, they're not, it doesn't matter if you speak English or not, right? As long as you understand the code, that's what only matters, which means that you may not speak English. It's okay. As long as you can code, which means that actually it's extremely universal than English. Okay. So I think like it just happened to be like, the developer community is always like global, international, and that has been helping our business. For example, like, one of the businesses that we work with in Saudi Arabia, they called up to us like probably like 4 years ago, without like knowing anything at all. I've never been to at that point Saudi Arabia, and they said like apps are ready, just need to get approved so we can just launch it next week. I was like, well, they were like, oh, we're developers. We read your API docs, did the API keys and the sandbox environment. Apps already.
Wow.
Without like, us never talking to them. So
the Saudis don't mess around, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, like, developer community is universal, global. So it's really cool.
Okay. So Alpaca.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about what's ahead. You yourself, I know it's not necessarily a global move, but you just moved to Miami, right?
Yeah.
There's a thriving tech scene emerging there.
Yes.
Was there any specific reason for the move? Like, how do you rate the scene? You're new enough to it, I think.
Yeah.
At least you avoided the New York winter, which is pretty horrific. It's still ongoing. What drove that move?
Well, I think like one thing is that, I continue to travel a lot because of this, clients and partners that's truly across the globe. And then also like, we are a full remote company. So we have employees from all the continents. So for us to be able to, like for me to like, visit all the places continue to be very, very important. Okay. So, and then also I have to be, of course, close to here, New York. A lot of events happening. So like we thought that like, that place is going to be a right place for me, at least for now.
Well, not just for the sun then. There was multiple reasons. Alpaca, how many people are you? What is the plan? Are you guys hiring, growing, trying to raise more money? What does the next 12 months look like?
So we are now a little bit more than 350 people globally. And then, yes, we are very much hiring. And then, we have a lot of things happening, right? Like, AI, everything, like, because us being an API is really the foundation of the AI and agents. So it's a lot of tailwind there. So we're, investing a lot into that, space as well, even more than just, API. And then, of course, tokenization. Tokenization has been moving super fast in terms of regulatory framework, even like New York Stock Exchange as well. A lot of partnerships happening. So like, we happen to have a lot of market share in the underlying securities of the tokenized stocks. So we are continuing to push that, partnering with a lot of people. So a lot of tailwinds into our business. So we're very excited and we're, of course, hiring.
Well, we love tailwinds and we love companies that are hiring. So Yoshi, wish you guys all the best. Hopefully have you back on theCUBE in the not too distant future. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm Gemma Allen here at the theCUBE studio at the New York Stock Exchange. This is Crypto Trailblazers, part of our programming with the NYSE Wired. Thanks so much for watching.